everybody. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for all. It's great having and seeing all your beautiful faces here tonight. Thank you, Ashley, and the International Bipolar Foundation for inviting me to be here. I've been so excited over this for several months. And, well, thank you. As you know, my name is Maricela Estrada, and my diagnosis is bipolar disorder with psychotic features. And let me tell you, I take pride with that diagnosis because, like Ashley said, it has made me stronger and more resilient, compassionate, caring, loving, kind, you name it. I don't see mental illness as a disability, but as a strength. I thank God for blessing me with this illness because He knew that I could conquer the battle. Well, it all started when I was a little girl. My father died before I was born. My mother was left with 4 kids and me on the way. She doesn't know English, and she didn't have a job. She worked very hard to provide a roof over our head and a warm meal every day. My first encounter with depression was when I was in kindergarten. I hated Father's Day because we had to make that Father's Day card out of construction paper and a little gift. And I had nobody to give it to. I missed my father dearly. My teachers would tell me, well, Maricela, you could give it to your mom because she was like your mom and your dad. Or I would give it to my eldest brother, Henry, who was like my father figure. But yet, it wasn't the same. By the time I got to middle school, I just became a mess. It was a roller coaster, but I didn't understand that it was a mental illness. I was battling an eating disorder. I had anorexia. I would starve myself. When I couldn't take the starvation, I would have a spoonful of boiled beans, frijoles de la olla, or a bite of a banana. I was so self-conscious about my looks. I wanted to look like Cindy Crawford. I wanted to be tall and skinny with big boobs. But then it happened. Well, back then I was very, very flat-chested. And one day I decided to stuff my bra. I walked around Lombard Intermediate, very confident with my head up high, thinking, wow, I feel really good about myself. But then it happened. The tissue started coming out of my shirt. Then the bell rang, and it all kind of happened at the same time. The bell rang, a girl turned and said, oh my God, you stuffed your bra. Everybody turned their heads and said, stovetop stuffing. They started getting wet balls of toilet paper and throwing them at me. They were chasing me the next day. Kids can be so cruel. Some of them, not all of them. Well, the way I got through the attacks of my wicked schoolmates is that I had a dog, a beloved dog. I named her Crystal. I would have her wear a red turtleneck sweater, paint her nails red, take her for walks, and she was like my best friend. When I didn't have anybody, I had her companionship. However, one day I heard my eldest sister scream one morning, and I got up out of bed, and I saw that Crystal had been hit by a station wagon. I saw her bleed to death. I was only 13 years old, and that was when I encountered my first prolonged episode of manic depression. I listened to Morrissey every day. I listened to Every Day is Like Sunday. Every Day is Silent and Gray, because Crystal died on a Sunday. It was no surprise that by age 14, I had my first suicide attempt by an overdose. It was my mother's birthday, and I had so much on my mind that by the end of the night, I just lost it and overdosed on Tylenol. My sister Rosa found me passed out and asked me what I had done. I told her that I overdosed, and she took me and my mom and my sister Rosa, they took me to the ER, and they pumped my stomach. But back then, they didn't do 5150s when you attempt against your life. They didn't get me the help I needed. They just pumped my stomach and sent me home. I needed help at a very early age. A lot of people, a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, and even young children need help at an early age. And at this point, it's so beautiful that there's so much more public awareness since I was a child. This all happened in like 1994. And now there's more public awareness, there's more lectures, there's more hope, there's more people speaking, there's more books. So it's really beautiful to me. But unfortunately back then there weren't that many resources. By the time I got to high school, I was a manic mess. High school was great and terrible at the same time. I was a proud member of the student council. I was chairman of my class 3 years in a row, freshman, sophomore, and junior year. By my junior year, my classmates assured me that I would be voted class president. However, that year, a much more popular wrestler decided to run against me. His friends would tear down my posters and boo me. I already felt defeated. It was just both of us running. I had a campaign manager back then, a good friend named Blanca. She made a cute little poster that said, "If you care for your escuela, vote for Maricela." Escuela means school in Spanish. She put a picture of Minnie Mouse in a little schoolgirl suit, and it was really adorable, and that was kind of my campaign, like peppy and cheerful, and the person running against me was more competitive and stuff. When it was time to get to the auditorium to give my campaign speech, I froze. I panicked. I didn't know what to say, so I just walked up to the microphone and said, "If you care for your escuela, vote for Maricela." And I ran out. I had so much experience, and I had been coordinating events, and I have been working so hard in my class to be president, but I froze, and my journalism teacher was like, "Hey Maricela, I heard you really blew your speech." But even though I blew my speech, I had a lot of fans, and it was a tie. And when I ran again, it wasn't a tie. I skipped sixth period to see the results, and when I saw the results on the wall that said, "Abel Viramontes, class president, 1998, my heart broke into a million pieces, and I ran to the bus stop crying, and I just cried. Oh my God, it took months and months for me to get over that. This was my dream. I wanted to be president. I still applied to be Secretary of Activities, and the cabinet actually made me Assistant Secretary of Activities, but at least I made it. By prom time, things got a little bit better. It got a little bit brighter. I was voted prom princess. But I actually thought that my classmates felt sorry for me for not winning president, so I thought that's why they voted for me. I was thinking so negatively. So it was 1998 during the time where the Titanic came out, and it was all about the Kate Winslet dress, the red and black lace dress, and I had red hair back then and blue contact lenses. I could have sworn I was Rose Bucator. I was trying so hard. I was just looking for my Leonardo DiCaprio. Unfortunately, nobody asked me to prom, and I was so sad. I thought I wasn't pretty enough. Some of my teachers said, well, maybe you're too pretty and they're intimidated by you. But I was thinking like, man, I have free prom tickets and picture tickets and nobody's asking me. Like 3 days before the prom, somebody in student council named Mario, he was the secretary, he asked me to prom. And we went, he was also on prom court, and when they were going to announce who the prom queen was, there was a drum roll, and they were like, your 1998 prom queen is Maricela Estrada. Everybody started cheering, and I saw the flashes, the cameras, the pictures, the dancing. But when it was all over, I sat at the bottom of the staircase with my head hanging down. A girl walked up to me and said, so how does it feel to be prom queen? I shrugged my shoulders. She didn't understand. Nobody understood. My emotions were always going up and down. Somebody during my campaign speech said that, oh, Maricela's too emotional to be president. It wasn't just that I was too emotional. I had a mental illness and didn't even know it. I didn't know what bipolar was. I didn't even know what a mental illness was. I was only 17 years old. By the time I got to college, everything went downhill. Everything was just so chaotic. My brother got ill and unfortunately, was diagnosed with bipolar before I was, 8 months before me. We lost our house that year. We had a lot of problems, financial problems. I was worried about my brother. It was just horrible. I decided to still go to school. I was going to Cal State, LA. I was already on the honor roll, and then it happened. I became psychotic. I became delusional. I had my first psychotic episode. I thought I was the chosen one. I always get that one, that I'm the chosen one. I don't know what that happens. God chose me to save the world or something. So I thought that I was the chosen one. I would walk around singing Christmas songs because Jesus was born on Christmas, and I always get so hyper-religious and manic and stuff. And I thought the devil was in my house, and I thought my family wanted to kill me. So I ran to my friend Melissa's house, who lived around the corner. And I said, Melissa, the devil's in my house. And she was studying to be a nurse. She was like, Mari, calm down, just, stay in the house. I have to go to school. I ran out of the house. I got to the porch. I got on my knees and started singing, "Oh, come all ye faithful," as I twirled my hands around, thinking that I was like Moses and I was going to part open the world or something. And Melissa's neighbors were just staring at me. There was a neighbor to the right. She was watering her lawn and her moo-moo. There's other neighbors getting ready to go to work. Melissa ran out in panic, and I was like, she got on her knees and started singing a little bit with me. And then she was like, Mari, come on, go inside the house. I have a test. She went to Cal State Long Beach, so she was in a hurry. And so I went inside the house, started running to different friends' houses, and finally my family came to get me. And my brother Junior was the one who reached out to me. He said, he started making phone calls one day, and this was right before my family had taken me to a shaman. You see, I come from strong Mexican-American roots, and mental illness wasn't something that my family was familiar with. So my mom took me to a shaman. I don't know if she thought that I was possessed or I had spiritual problems, or she even mentioned one day that she thought my prom dress was haunted. She really didn't understand mental illness. She wanted the best for me. So she took me to a shaman, and I was fluttering my eyes, telling the shaman that I had special powers and I was the chosen one, and God chose me to save the world. And so I was talking to the shaman, and he was just staring at me and observing me. And then he said he had to go talk to my mom. So he went and he talked to my mom, and he told her that my problems weren't spiritual, but they were psychiatric. That's when Junior stepped in, and he took charge and started making phone calls. And one day he said that we had to go somewhere. Me and Junior were so close. We had this bond ever since we were young. And I trusted him. So he said, Mari, you know what? We got to go somewhere. I didn't know where we were going. We just got in his truck and we drove. It was silent yet so loud. I heard the cars in the streets going by, and I hadn't slept in so long. I was manic. I was psychotic. And everything was just getting louder and louder. When we got to I call it the glass house. It's actually Cerritos College Hospital. Everything is, the doors are glass. It's a very beautiful hospital. We got to the hospital, but since I was hyper-religious and delusional, I thought it was heaven because I saw white walls and a glossy floor, and I thought surely its imperfections and soft colors is heaven. I remember there was a dining room and vases on the tables and flowers and a fireplace, and I started collecting the flowers. I wandered away from Junior, getting all the flowers, saying, oh, I'm going to collect them and give them to God. The fireplace was a fireplace with a black protection cover over it, and I stared at it, and I was like, I hate you, Satan. I thought Satan was in the fireplace. So Junior got my hand and said, you got to come with me, and we went to a nurse's office, and I sat down, and she had a little stuffed angel doll, and her desk was cluttered, and it said, there's an angel helping you. I pulled on Junior's shirt, and I said, Junior, that lady's a real angel. And he was like, Mike, calm down. And so he had me sign some papers, and I voluntarily checked myself into my first psychiatric ward. Since I thought I was in heaven, I thought I had to look for Jesus. At first, I went to bed. The nurse told me I had to go to bed. She gave me a white gown. I went to bed, tossed and turned. When I woke up, I realized I was in a strange bed. So I panicked, and then I looked around, got out of bed, looked around, and said, oh yeah, that's right. I'm in heaven. Now I gotta find Jesus. So I looked around, and I saw patients, but I thought they were the people that had died and were in heaven, and I thought all the nurses were angels. So I was looking for Jesus, looking around, the hospital, and I ran into a patient who had jeans and a polo shirt and a brown beard, and I was like, oh my God, you're Jesus! And I would follow him around everywhere. He didn't speak English, and I thought he spoke the language of God. Till this day, I wish I knew. I wish I could just talk to him now and say, what were you thinking while I was calling you Jesus? Did you like the attention of being called Jesus? Did you like my company, or did you feel sorry for me, or why were you even in there? So he didn't blend in. He was quiet and sweet and stuff. By the time it was breakfast time, I sat with him, but I thought it was the Last Supper. So I thought that Judas was going to come betray Jesus with a kiss. I looked around and saw a patient staring at me. She had gray and white hair, she was missing most of her teeth, and she was just staring at me. She was an older lady, and she was just staring at me, and I turned to her, and I started yelling, and I said, "That's the devil, that's the devil!" I started to panic and get paranoid. I got my tray of food, my oatmeal, and I threw it in her face. That poor lady, oh my goodness, that poor lady. I wish I could apologize to her, poor thing. She looked so scared. But, the nurses came and they pinned me down. They gave me a shot in the arm and put me in the timeout room. I felt like I was in the timeout room. Does anybody know what a timeout room is by any chance? Okay, you guys know what a timeout room is. So I felt like I was in the timeout room for hours. I remember pressing my knees to my chest and humming Amazing Grace. It felt like I hummed Amazing Grace and started all over again like 10 million times before I heard the rattling of keys. And it was the nurse who walked in and said, "You have visitors." It was my family. I rambled on with my delusions, and they looked at me like I was breaking their heart. Their eyes were teary. I was thinking, like, why aren't they rejoicing that I'm in heaven and Jesus is with me, Why do they look like I'm breaking their heart? What's wrong with them? I didn't understand back then. I was only 18 years old. So I got released, and I became, what happened before I got released was that Melissa came to visit me. And she walked straight towards me, and she was in panic, and she gave me a big tight hug. And the patient, who I called the devil, the poor lady again, she walked by, and I said, "That's her, that's the devil." Melissa turned to me and said, "Mari, that's not the devil." I said, "No, that's the devil." "Mari, that's not the devil." She put my arm down. "Mari, she's a patient and you're scaring her." I thought, a patient? Patient. Am I in the hospital? And then I realized that I wasn't just in the hospital, I was in a mental hospital. And every day I had been doing the same thing. I felt like we walked around like overdrugged zombies during breakfast time, vitals time, medication time, visiting time, cigarette break. Every day I had been doing the same thing, but I just didn't know. I was in another world, far from sanity. When I got released, I didn't want to accept it. I just couldn't believe that an honor student, that somebody so full of promise could have a mental illness. And I was in denial for 4 long and painful years. I put my family through hell. I put myself through hell. I hurt everybody around me. I hurt my mother. My mother's my guardian angel, and she would cry and pray so much for me. And I just kept hurting them and hurting myself and having other suicide attempts and other delusions. Accepting that I have bipolar disorder was the hardest thing that I have ever done in my life. It was just so hard. And it took a lot of embarrassing delusions and suicide attempts to get me to the point of acceptance. I'm going to share with you some of my embarrassing public delusions and then explain to you the final delusion that led me to accept my mental illness. The most embarrassing delusion I have ever had in my life is when I thought the world was ending. Literally. I was going to school full-time, was manic, had 3 jobs. My oldest brother Henry picked me up from work with my mom. He said we were going to go shopping at Superior Warehouse for groceries. We were in Montebello. They went in to get groceries. I said I would wait in the car. I put my seat back to relax, and all of a sudden I had an auditory hallucination. It sounded like a choir of angels singing. I started thinking, oh my God, the world is ending, the world is ending. I started screaming and getting paranoid. I thought we had to be naked like Adam and Eve before they discovered sin, so I tore off all my clothes, and the security called 911. When I came back to reality, I was in handcuffs and naked. This is the city where I grew up. This is where I ran from Miss Montebello. There's about 100 people just staring at me, 4 police cars. My brother and my mom came out, and I heard my brother talking to the police officer, and he said, "It's a shame. She was an honor student." They threw me in the back seat of the police vehicle, and the mascara started, the tears started cascading down my cheeks, and I saw that I needed to be covered, so I asked the police officer if I could get covered, and so I covered myself. I put my hands back, and he handcuffed me again, because, this was the drill. It always happened. I already knew. that I was going to a mental hospital. And I did. I went to one of the worst hospitals I've ever been in my life. And the hospital was called Penmar, and it was a hospital that accepted clients, people that had no insurance, poor people like me. A lot of them were homeless. I saw a lot of pain and trauma at Penmar. I was so delusional, walking around up and down singing Christmas songs, and I would pray with everybody. I remember a patient named Keon. I'll never forget him because he would protect me. He was tall, and he had this, he was in for anger problems, and he would protect me. He said I was too innocent and I shouldn't trust anybody, and he was right. One day a patient walked up to me and he said, "Will you pray with me?" I said, "Sure, I'll pray with anybody." He took me to his room and started touching me all over my body. When I opened my eyes, he was on top of me, kissing me. I got grossed out, I got scared, and I pushed him off of me. I ran to Keon. They were in line getting ready to have dinner, and Keon said, "Which one? Who did this to you? Which one was it?" I pointed at him, and he said, "That one? I'll beat him up." He went for him, started trying to beat him up. I got between him and tried to break up the fight, and that's when the evil male nurse came to get me and grabbed me by my hospital gown. You know, everybody that I work with in mental health has the heart and compassion to work with people with mental illness, but not this male nurse. He just did it for a job. He grabbed me by my hospital gown and said, are you being a troublemaker? This will teach you to stay out of trouble." He pushed me into the timeout room. I was crying and banging on the doors. "Let me out, let me out. I didn't do anything, I'm innocent." That was one of the most traumatic times of my life. I remember crying and praying and saying to God, "Why have you forsaken me?" I went to bed in tears. I woke up in the morning to the sun gleaming through the window. There was a small window. It had rained the day before, and that's when I had a beautiful hallucination, but a vision of hope. Out of the dewdrops, they started connecting into the image of a girl praying with an angel behind her and a flag of victory. Although it was a hallucination, for me it gave me hope. I banged on the doors, and they let me out. They had forgotten about me, let me say. They waited till the morning shift. The evil male nurse went home, forgot about me. Oh, and I had to use the bathroom on the floor. There was no bathroom, so I hope it was horrible. And the nurse went home, and I got out and talked to Keon and just said, "Well, there's a new day and a new light awaiting me." I recently went back to Penmar, not on a 5150, but to visit a friend. Last weekend, one of my good friends was put in a 5150 because he tried jumping off a bridge. He reached out to me, and I'm glad he reached out to me, and I was one of the first people to go visit him. And I visited him every day until he got out. He got out yesterday. When I went to Penmar, I saw the halls where I used to sing. I saw the timeout room. I saw the patients. I saw the bars, feeling caged in. And I started getting all those memories all over again. I started to feel the trauma again. The first few days were okay, but by the fourth day, the evil nurse still worked there. He passed by me with his keys, rattling his keys. Who knows who else he was going to throw out in the timeout room. And I looked at him and I said, "Do you remember me?" He turned and looked at me and said, "Nope, never seen you before in my life." And he walked away. When this happened, I got home and I started crying. And I told my roommate, Guillermo, "I don't know if I'm going to be strong enough to face all those people for my lecture. But you know what? It gave me strength. And I'm just so much more stronger. And I'm not going to let anybody bring me down. We can't let anybody bring us down. Because there's people in this world that will try to bring us down and will stigmatize us and will treat us like we're not worthy. But it's not true. We are worthy." Thank you. Finally, the delusion that made me accept my mental illness was on my birthday. It was April 20th, 2002. I had just gotten liposuction because, I'm not sure if you guys know this, and maybe you do, but my medication made me gain 36 pounds. The first time I ever saw a stretch mark in my body was when I started taking medication. So I manically charged liposuction on 3 credit cards, and one of them was suck the fat out of me, so they did. They sucked the fat out of me, and that was my birthday present to myself, the gift of self-esteem. And I had been off my medication for 9 months. And I was on Vicodin, plus the intense surgery triggered a very delusional episode that lasted the whole summer. I lost a lot of friends that year. Well, I went to my birthday, which was to go to my church to the Easter service to watch the sunrise and hear the sermon. So I went with one of my friends that I call Diva. He calls me Diva as well. We're both Divas. So we go to the service, and the pastor starts talking about Mary Magdalene. And all of a sudden I think, hey, I'm Mary Magdalene. And I start screaming, I'm Mary Magdalene, I'm Mary Magdalene. And I fell over and I had a seizure. The ushers carried me away. And my friend Diva was like, you know, her birthday wish was to be here. That's what he told the ushers. All she wanted was to be here. Diva, Javier is his real name. He is very hilarious and he likes to make me laugh and brings humor to everything, which is a joy. I said, Diva, what were you thinking while I was, screaming that I'm Mary Magdalene, there's security? And he said, Diva, I was thinking, kick her over the football field. Security, I don't know that girl. He started laughing and said, Diva, you know I love you. I wasn't thinking that. I'm here for you. So on that precious day, April 20th, 2002, I finally said, Maricela Estrada, this is the last time you embarrass yourself in public. This is the last time you hurt yourself and hurt everybody around you. Face it, you are living with bipolar disorder, but your life will go on. And my life began to change in a beautiful way. I had been keeping journals of my life for 10 years, since I was in high school. And 10 years later, my journals became Bipolar Girl, My Psychotic Self, a memoir. And I prayed to God and said, God, it was hard writing that book because I had to relive traumatic experiences. But when I prayed, I said, if my book could just help one person, just one person from hurting themselves or committing suicide, or if it could just touch one life, then everything, all the turmoil I went through would be all worthwhile. I share my personal email with people, and I've got many, many emails. And my book has touched a lot of lives, so it's a true blessing. And I'm glad I went through all that if I could help people. So my life did change in a beautiful way. I went on and graduated from Rio Hondo College, and I earned 3 prestigious scholarships. I was honored at USC. I went on to get my bachelor's degree at Cal State Fullerton in communications. And then I found out about a peer advocacy program through Project Return Peer Support Network. Have any of you guys heard of the peer advocacy program? No? Okay. Peer advocates bring a lot of hope to people who are living and surviving with mental illnesses. The peer advocacy program is designed for mental health consumers to go to special training to learn, that have life experience, to be able to work in the community and help others, peer advocates. I'm a peer, you're a peer, we're peer advocates. And there's a lot of peer advocates now. And now I'm working for the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health as a peer advocate. I love my job. I facilitate 5 groups and client coalition, and I do speaking engagements, and I'm very active in spreading a message of hope and survival all over the world, I hope. I went to Project Return, I became a peer advocate, and now I'm looking into going to graduate school, Cal State, either Cal State Long Beach or Cal State LA, or maybe even USC, for my master's in social work. I would like to become a psychiatric social worker or even a licensed clinical social worker, and just keep spreading the word and sending a message of hope. However, being a peer advocate, I'm empowered, I want to help everybody. And one of the people that I really, really, really wanted to help not too long ago was Britney Spears. Britney Spears is my idol. I absolutely adore her. I've been listening to her music since her first album, Baby Hit Me One More Time. And when Britney Spears got on the 5150, I said, oh my God, I have to help her. Britney Spears is going to be my best friend. I'm going to go to the hospital, and I'm going to be there for her, and we're going to be friends, and I'm going to tell her that she can get through all her obstacles. So I was working back then at a mental health organization in Orange County, and I had Pacific Care Insurance. So I called my insurance, and I said, do you accept, she was at UCLA Psych Ward, and I said, do you accept insurance? Do you accept my insurance? And they said yes. And so I developed this plan to break into the hospital to meet Britney Spears. I didn't want to worry my family, so I drove down the street and I parked. I called 911 and said, I want to kill myself. I have a plan. I'm going to overdose. I'm going to kill myself. So they put me on a 5150 and I told them where I wanted to go. I wanted to go meet Britney Spears. Little did they know that I was delusional. I became delusional about it. So I wanted to go to the hospital to meet Britney Spears, but unfortunately, to my devastation, I was transferred to DeLongmo Mental Hospital, so far from my family. Nobody came to visit me. I ended up depressed in there. But recovery, like what I learned at work, we did a training called the Morse training, and what I learned in my training is that recovery is not linear. I'm in recovery now, and I've been in recovery for several years. However, even when I wrote the book and I was 28 years old, I'll be 32 in April, so almost 4 years ago, when I wrote the book, I still wasn't at the level of recovery where I am at now. It took a very horrible suicide attempt to get me to this level of recovery. My mom says she lost track of how many times I tried killing myself by overdose or by wanting to drive off the freeway. And after I wrote the book, I had a horrible suicide attempt by overdose. I was on disability, and I lost my apartment and went to live with a roommate. We shared a room. She was out partying the night that I overdosed, and I overdosed at about 10 p.m. She got home around 2 a.m. She didn't know what happened to me. I was like twitching, and I couldn't yell for help. She had no idea what happened, so she was just trying to calm me down, and then she fell asleep. And finally, around 7 a.m., I was able to call for help, call 911. She called 911. Being overdosed for that many hours on all my medication, I should have been dead. It's a miracle that I'm alive right now. And I think the reason I'm alive right now is to be here with people like you. So I had that horrible suicide attempt. And after that attempt, let me tell you, I had an epiphany. I had this profound awakening where I began to appreciate my life because I almost lost it. I began to appreciate my life and everybody in it. My friends, my family, my loved ones, my relationships, everything. I began to appreciate everything in my life, my work, my everything. I just thought I had taken life for granted for so long. And a lot of people take life for granted. When you're that suicidal, you just think of the obsession you have of wanting to take your life. And you don't realize that if you weren't alive, the world wouldn't be the same without you. If any of you weren't alive today, the world wouldn't be the same without you. Is there a loved one that loves you? Do you have a beautiful niece like my niece Caroline? Do you have a niece that loves you? Do you have a son? Do you have a daughter? Do you have a friend that loves you? Do you have a mental illness? Does somebody you love have a mental illness? Why are you guys here today? You're here for a reason. I don't think that things happen by chance. I think everybody we encounter in our life is for a divine reason. There's a divine purpose for everybody's existence. And I strongly believe that it's not to die by our own hands. When I began to appreciate life, I discovered the beauty of positive energy and positive affirmations. I had read a lot in previous jobs about positive affirmations, and now I facilitate a group at my work called Road to Recovery, and we do positive affirmations, and we don't allow any negativity. Whenever there's any type of negative self-talk or suicidal ideation, we transform it into a positive affirmation, something to look forward to. I'm not the creator of positive affirmations. They've been existing for many years. But that's something that I hold dear to my heart, and it gives me a reason to live, is to look at my life in a more positive perspective and just appreciate everybody and send this message of hope and survival all over the world. I've had many close calls to death. When I was living in East LA in a very poor and violent neighborhood, there was a drive-by shooting that almost killed me, and the bullet went flying right over my head. I've had so many suicide attempts, and one time I was even found unconscious at Rio Hondo College, and the janitor had to call 911, and he saved my life. There is a reason why I'm alive today. There is a divine reason why I'm alive today. And that reason is to do things like this, and stand in front of people like you, and give lectures, and share my life story, and bring hope into the world, and touch hearts, maybe save lives, touch the lives of families, friends, neighbors, people we love, co-workers. Because when I wrote the book, and I did my research, 5.7 million Americans have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. 5.7 million Americans that we know of that have been diagnosed. This was in 2008. I wonder how many more have been diagnosed since then. And it's not just bipolar. It's schizophrenia, it's schizoaffective, it's post-traumatic stress disorder, it's OCD, there's so many mental illnesses in the DSM-4 that I can't even begin to count. But mental illness truly, truly makes us stronger and resilient. And I just get empowered. And like I said earlier, I thank God for blessing me. I see bipolar disorder as a blessing, a huge blessing. I would not be the person I am today if I didn't have bipolar. Truly, truly, it has made me a wonderful person with a good heart, with a really good heart. And I really want to reach out to people. And if it wasn't for my mental illness, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't have written this book. I wouldn't be unique. I wouldn't be so manic and hyper, and I love mania. But don't we all love mania? So I think it makes us more creative. I read an article. I was actually working with the National Bipolar Foundation. I was blogging for them when my book came out. And I was talking to one of the board of directors, and he said, you know what, there has to be some sort of neurotransmitter or something that makes somebody with a mental illness more creative, more unique, more talented than the average person. There has to be something, because some of the greatest leaders of all time have had mental illnesses. Some of the greatest celebrities have a mental illness. And they're talented, they're unique, they're doing great things with their lives. That same week, he emailed me an article. There is some sort of scientific proof that demonstrates that people that have a chemical imbalance in their brain, that have a mental illness, are more unique, are more intelligent, are more triumphant. I just want to end with that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes?
Thank you very much for speaking. I'm really got a lot of what you have to say. I was wondering what it's like day to day in your workplace, how you might interact with other professionals that you work with, as well as the clients that you see or the groups that you facilitate.
It's a wonderful experience. It really is, because I openly share about my life. Since I'm a peer advocate, I'm able to share about my life. And my coworkers are wonderful. My supervisor is great. It's a great team, and we're all there for the same mission, is to send hope. And DMH's logo is hope, wellness, and recovery. That's something that we really, really envision and implement. So, yes?
Do you have a hard time staying on your medication?
No, I don't. I love my medication. I'm very happy with it. Even though it made me gain a lot of weight and I'm pleasantly plumper and all that liposuction weight came back, I'd rather be heavier and sane than a little bit, not
You
so.
said you like the manic, so I was just...
Oh yeah, I love the manic, but I still get manic with medication. Yeah. It's not like way up high, but I do get manic, and I do like it. And I don't crash that hard. If I do, it's slightly, because I think that with mental illness and with medication can only do so much. It becomes part of your personality. You really have to make that effort. If you're manic, if you're on a manic high, if you spend all your money, if you file bankruptcy the way I did, and you just kind of become a manic mess, I don't allow myself to crash down hard and become suicidal. I control it. I've learned great coping strategies. I've gone to groups, and the way I think more positive now. Yes?
Well, I have bipolar 2, and I'm doing so much better than, let's say, 10 years ago, but recently, for 3 months, I was doing great, I was showing up at work, I had a great attitude, and then up until like a week ago, for 2.5 months before that, the depression wasn't terrible. I wasn't suicidal. I was basically doing the minimum. I mean, do you have like periods that you're doing great, and then do you still have periods, and then you come down with the depression, and how do you handle it?
Very rarely. I handle it by the people I love and the things that I look forward to. I do get, once in a while, I get slightly depressed, but it won't last more than 3 days. Recently, not that long ago, well, in 4th of July, this past 4th of July, we had to get together with my family, and then all my family, they're all married, they have kids, and everybody went on to do their own thing, and I went home and felt really lonely that I'm not married and I don't have kids, so I don't have a dog anymore. So I felt very lonely, and it triggered a little bit of depression. I went to work and felt okay at work, but towards the middle of my shift, towards lunchtime, I started feeling depressed, like the tears were going to start coming down my cheeks. And so I told them that I had a family emergency and I had to go home. So I came home for an hour, and my niece Caroline, my beautiful niece Caroline, wait. We have matching scarves, just different colors. My beautiful niece Caroline had just gotten home from school, or she came back from somewhere, and she had a plate of fudge, and she sat next to me, and she saw that the tears were going to start coming down my face, and she leaned her cheek against the sofa with her big brown eyes and her long eyelashes, and she said, "Oh, Mari, what's wrong? You can tell me anything. Do you want fudge?" That's all it took. Do you want fudge? I started laughing hysterically, and I went back to work. I missed an hour of work, and that's it. That's it. My depression episode ended right there. Yes?
You mentioned that you don't have your dog now, and I've been thinking, I've seen it elsewhere at least once, having a service dog because of bipolar. Any thoughts?
Yes. Yes, I've heard of that before. So I've heard somebody say they have a psychiatric service dog that works as a companion to them. Yeah.
I know somebody who can do the training.
Really? Oh, actual training?
Dr. Dog is what they call him, literally. His radio show was the Dr. Dog show here in San Diego. Longest time.
Oh, I didn't.
He's had a hard time. He's had an amputation of his leg. So he can't do the training of the dog right now from his 300-pound electric wheelchair. But people around him can help. And the computer stuff and all that, he's easy to reach. And he's just come home. What's he going to do for money is his issue now. Lost his radio show. Lost his leg. But he knows all this stuff.
Wow.
So, my thought is, if I pull that off, he's a few months away, I would trade him, driving him around. He's got this terrible van for the training and working with the dog. But he could do it in a lot of ways. It could be a meetup group.
Yeah, he can do that actually. He can do that. He could promote that and start his own website and just. He's
got a website, I'm really sure.
Oh, okay. So he could just
expand on. He doesn't offer that training right now.
Oh.
But, so.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you.
DrDog.com.
DrDog.com. Okay, got it. I'll remember that. Thank you. Hi.
You mentioned Vicodin.
Yes.
I would please ask you for some help about this. This is what my son wants all the time.
Vicodin.
And, yes, and were you on it for quite some time?
Well, I couldn't tolerate the Vicodin. It made me
Took a little bit
delusional.
at a time. You started though for a little bit, and then
I took it, but I was so manic that I just took the pain and didn't really
were you
take
taking
the...
it for physical pain or mental?
For physical pain, for the liposuction.
Oh, well, my son wants it to feel better, because he is bipolar, and he's also high functioning Asperger's, and he's 19 years old, and I can't even let him have Ambien or anything, because he'll overdose. He doesn't take him to die, he takes him to feel, he can sit with Ambien, one or two of them, and be up all day long.
Oh,
Yeah, so basically I'm reaching out for help.
right.
Because he doesn't go get help. He has a doctor, that's it. But no social, no like coming to things like this or making some friends. He has no friends.
It'll...
You know, it's just devastating for me. Devastating. Watching
I
and scared.
understand that. It's very scary, yes. I
And I don't know
understand.
what to do.
I think that he'll come around and
He's trying to self-medicate.
yeah, that's
Even though
not
he's
good.
on some medication.
Okay, so co-occurring disorder, you mean? Co-occurring?
Whereas
Because there's
bipolar-
something called co-occurring disorder when you have an addiction and a mental illness. It's called COD, co-occurring
Dual
disorder.
diagnosis.
It used to be called dual diagnosis, now it's called co-occurring disorder.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I've been diagnosed with bipolar and, schizoaffective, and, he doesn't have to, he's not around walking around delusional, but he does say some funny things, but,
Mhm.
I tried to get him to come tonight. He went through hospitals too. And his first time he was 6 years old.
Oh, he was very young.
I have my own story, you know.
Yeah.
But I just want to say thank you for even just mentioning the Vicodin, because he says it helps him to be able to get out and go out again if he's on something like that. And he's on Lamictal right now, which is a very good medicine.
Yeah, I take
But
that.
they gave him Ativan, and I'm very upset. You know, Ativan
Because
is
it's
very
habit
addictive.
forming, yeah. It's,
So
so you have to did they send a release for you to be able to be involved in his treatment?
I try, if they'll let me. Now he's old enough to say, I don't want my mom involved.
Oh, no. Well, what happens is that there's that denial period, and
I need to write that down, what you said, the O's, we call it
COD, co-occurring disorder, co-occurring disorder. And you could go online and find out more about that. There's a lot of support groups and help for that.
And you mean they want to use drugs, something to self-medicate themselves?
Yeah, that's co-occurring disorder.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you can actually
I
get,
know about everything, I didn't know about that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's probably my reason for being here.
Oh,
Thank you very, very much, everyone.
oh, you're very, very welcome.
Wow.
Sorry, I think you had a question first?
A resource to mention right here in San Diego.
A resource?
Depression and bipolar support.
Support Alliance. Yes, I've heard of them.
Very active group close by here with, I don't know how many people have shown up, 4 different rooms often in the VA hospital.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've heard of them for several years.
BSA San Diego is the website.
Maybe you could give Ashley all those resources and she could put them on the website.
Depression Bipolar Support Alliance. Yeah, International's on their website.
Oh, okay, good.
But yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They're the ones who, I asked one time, what about Seroquel? And they said, yeah, several people in the room. I asked another time about a book, and the first one I didn't like, but the second one I really liked, and that was our last speaker here. Depression, bipolar survival guide.
Oh, I've heard of that book. Yeah.
He was here, the author.
Wow, that's awesome.
There's a lot of medicines, people have bad reaction, or the people that are sick, they feel so horrible when they take things like Seroquel, Geodon. My son experienced horrible experiences with those meds.
Yeah, it's eventually you find the right medication for you. I've taken so many medications and I finally found the medication that works for me, so I'm very blessed to have that. But it's just like a trial and error, and until you find the right dosage or the right medication. But eventually we'll.
Through
I
that
hope
group,
so.
I also found my psychiatrist, who's
Did
so
you?
much more aggressive than my previous one. They have a list of professionals recommended by participants.
That is so
They don't
cool.
guarantee it, but I happened to get to speak with the president of the group who maintains it. He said, here's the best ones at 6-month wait. And here's the second best one, Ramona. And the third best one is, he said, his doctor, another active person in the group, and yeah, changed my life.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good, great resource. So it's
Or it seems that it's
bipolar.
changed my life. Don't know about the future. Bipolar?
It can in a beautiful way.
Maybe, yeah.
In a beautiful way. Yes.
I've got something that is just came to my attention. I've been diagnosed with manic depressive when it was called that since I was in junior high school, when it was junior high school. And then bipolar, and most recently, which was last September, mixed bipolar, which you can flip on like a light switch.
Mixed, yeah.
You know, I could be talking to you like this right now and then start laughing and I'll be crying. And it's really pretty difficult to deal with, you know. But I was just talking to you out there about this being stigmatized. And I'm very interested in, you know, being an advocate for people with bipolar. Just a quick story once, I'm going to City College to become a drug and alcohol counselor. And I was talking to one of my classmates and I told him I was bipolar. And he jumped out of his seat. He was a young 24-year-old man, strong. He jumped out of his seat, scared to death, thinking that I would be one of those people that would shoot a gun at him one day and kill him.
No.
And he was serious, and I said, wait, what are you doing? And he goes, you know, you're going to kill me one day. I said, that's an extreme, you know, it's not like it. So he and I did get bond, we did become close. So, you know, I know that if you have time, I'd like to get some more information to maybe go through you or your group to be an advocate. And my cardiologist, I had to fire the best known cardiologist in San Diego because he kept telling me my angina was my head. And he put 3 in, and since then, in 3 years, 1 every year, I've had 3 other stents put in my heart. And he was refusing to listen to me. He kept telling me I wasn't taking my medication.
Aww.
And I'm a B+ student in school. So,
Don't you hate that when they tell you that? Are you taking your medication?
I'm in my 50s. I go to Grossmont Hospital and they see me, and because of what he was saying, they were ready to turn me out the door. And because I told them they better look, they found another, you know, severely clogged artery.
Wow.
So I want to talk to doctors in hospitals.
Right. Unfortunately, there's some people who have a lack of education and really need resources and really need to know what mental illness is about. It's not about the person with the armed weapon or the person that's going to hurt you or that big stigma. And there's a lot of organizations that are building public awareness and educating people, like NAMI. NAMI is one of them, National Alliance on Mental Illness. He mentioned DAPSA, Bipolar Depressive Support Alliance?
Depression, Bipolar
Support Alliance.
DBSA.
DBSA.
That's San Diego at the end of it, and you're on the local website.
Right. Okay, wonderful. So there's a lot of great project return where I did my peer advocacy program, and that might be something you may be interested in becoming a peer advocate, or they have a COD, a co-occurring disorder COD peer advocate, and you go to the training. The training is a few months long every day, then maybe you'll get a stipend or something, and then you're able to apply and work at different places.
Well, I'm also in recovery. I've got 5 years clean.
Oh, congratulations! Yay! Wonderful. Good. Good for you. You're doing good. Good for you. Got any other questions?
So we can keep in touch with you, with your website?
Oh, yes. I have some flyers right there with my book's website, and I have my personal email on there, which is maricelaauthor@gmail. It's right there. You guys could email me anytime, and I answer all emails personally.
Well, thank you.
Okay? You're welcome. And I have some business cards as well. Yes?
I'd like to share a resource that changed my life. I had a severe manic episode. I was psychotic about 40 years ago, and thank God I went to Scripps Mercy Hospital in Hillcrest, and yeah, her too, and completely changed my life. I work there now, and yeah, great relationship with my parents. And so if anybody, I'm in the outpatient program too, and so amazing. It's changed my life. Yeah, so if anybody, and there's also, I don't know, do you know about Recovery International?
I've heard of Recovery International, and there's another one that's similar. I thought it was called Recovery International, but it may be called something else.
Recovery Innovation.
Oh, that's, yeah, Rika, yeah. They're separate. They're good too.
There's a nonprofit that my work colleague, a psychiatrist, actually is co-founder of, and I thought it's called Recovery. I thought it was called Recovery International, but I think it may be called something else.
Yeah.
But I've heard of a lot of nonprofits and other different organizations. But yeah, I could leave it. I think I got one of the brochures from Ashley.
Oh, good.
It's really good.
It's self-help. It's free. It's cognitive. I've been going for 12 years.
Did you bring a lot of copies?
Yeah. Pardon?
Did you bring a lot of brochures?
Yeah, I
Copies?
wrote some brochures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You could put them there. People could take them or pass them out.
Okay.
That would be great.
One thing
You're
I'd like
welcome.
to say about Mercy is if you do not have the insurance and it's a dire, they do charity intakes for the outpatient programs.
Yay.
Okay, and they take Medicare, Medi-Cal, and all kinds of others. But it is a wonderful program.
Sounds good.
It's good.
Thanks, Rick.
Good.
Just
Great.
someone to go, right?
Yeah.
Get them to go, if I could get them to go.
You'll come around with
Have you
time.
heard of the Amen Clinic, Dr. Daniel Amen?
No, I haven't.
Well, if he's on the internet, he does brain specs instead of brain scans. I had mine done, and my son had his done, because there was a wonderful recovery organization that paid for us to have it done. But it's not cheap, and that's why. But anyway, just mentioning Dr. Amen. Everybody's looking for an answer, and there's different resources out there.
Thank you so much
Just
for
if you don't
sharing.
have money, hello.
Right, I understand.
Money talks.
Okay, he has a question.
Well,
She has-
sometimes I like to be negative, and I was going to be negative about the outpatient program at Mesa Vista, Sharp. I thought it wasn't working, for sure. I'm glad to hear that Mercy has a good one. As far as Dr. Amen goes, I saw him on PBS, or whatever.
Right.
I talked with my psychiatrist about it. Hey, I get patients from him, she said.
Yeah, they don't know a lot of
Patients.
Yeah.
Yeah, his patients don't make it, she says, then they come to me, and try to dig them out of the hole.
Well, she had a question?
I was just wondering if you could give a couple examples of your positive affirmation when you're with your group.
Okay. I am triumphant and strong. I am resilient. I love myself more every day. I can make it through anything. I'm the strongest person in the world. I will have a healthier and strong and more bountiful life. Anything. It could apply to anything. I like to do I'll have a healthier lifestyle because I want to exercise more and I want to get in shape. And I used to box and be 20 pounds lighter, but I have scoliosis, so it's hard. So I just got a gym membership, so that's my affirmation. That's one of my strongest ones is I'll have a healthier lifestyle. Thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. Have a good night. Thanks. You're welcome.
Regarding scoliosis,
Oh, really? Yeah, I've done that. I've done that before. I do that. I don't know how to swim that good, but I've done it. And there's a pool at LA Fitness that I can do that. No way. Oh, cool. really cool. Where can I get one? Can you write it down? Okay. Nice.